Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to another episode of Karma Cards. I am your host, Therese Tucker, and I can't wait to get into the energy with you. So, first of all, welcome to March Madness. And no, I'm not talking about basketball. I am talking about the crazy, 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 wild energy of March 2025. This month felt big. I felt it coming way before I looked into the astrology. I could feel that March had a significant pull, and man, does it ever. In the upcoming karma card, starting this week and moving forward, I'm going to help break it down for you piece by piece because there's so much going on. So to start with, well, first, maybe I should share with you all that's going on so that you can know what's coming. First, to start off March, right on March 1st, on the dot, we've got Venus retrograding in the sign of Aries. So that's the first one that we're going to deal with. This episode's going to be taking you deeper into that. But then on the 15th of March, we've got Mars retrograding in the sign of Aries. But before that, on March 13th, we've got our first eclipse of 2025. So we're in eclipse season with March, and that's going to be happening on the 13th. It will be a lunar eclipse with the full moon. Then we've got another eclipse coming up at the end of the month, around the 28th, 29th, right in that kind of date range is the second eclipse. And finally, on the 30th, like towards the very end of the month, we've got Neptune. Oh, and the second eclipse, with the second eclipse, it will be a new moon in Aries. So you've got Venus retrograding in Aries, Mercury retrograding in Aries, an eclipse. Then you've got the new moon eclipse in Aries. And then at the end of the month, Neptune, which hasn't changed signs in 14 years because it's an outer planet, is changing into the sign of Aries. And it hasn't been there since the 1800s. So we got a whole bunch of really spicy energy because Aries is a fire sign. It's cardinal fire. Very spicy, but also very good. Like it gets things going. And in the midst of that, we have the spring equinox, which also puts us into the season of Aries. So there is a lot of fire coming in this month. There is a lot of direct, blunt, independent energy. It's very much focusing on getting things done. It's direct. It doesn't waste time with all the emotional extras. It wants to cut through that and get right to the point so things can get going. So it's going to be a spicy time and energy, but we can work with this. And we can even have it work to our advantage if we understand what the cosmos is sharing with us through these shifts and how to navigate us through it. So to start this series, I want to break it down a week at a time so that I don't overwhelm you and so that we can easily kind of follow along with what the cosmos is talking about. So this week, we're going to talk about Venus retrograde. So this is going from March 1st. So we're already in it. Hi, we're inside Venus retrograding in Aries. And it's going to go all the way to April 12th. So Venus retrograde is a period of time that brings reassessment and reflection. Anytime a planet is going retrograde, it's visually looks like it's going in reverse. It's not, but that's what we see with our eye when we look at it. And on a spiritual, cosmic, energetic level, it's talking about instead of the energy being directed outward, it's being directed inward. So what are we looking at internally? We're looking at our love. We're looking at our relationships. We're looking at what we value. And we're tying it through Aries to self-assertion and personal desire. What do we want? What do we value? What do we love? What do we want to create? So here's some of the challenges and lessons that Venus in Aries is going to bring to us. Now, Venus isn't super comfortable in the sign of Aries. In fact, it's connected to her lover, which is Mars, right? So Venus represents divine feminine. It's like a softer, gentler, more nurturing energy. And Mars represents that direct, aggressive, fiery energy. So with Venus in the sign of Aries, which is actually the sign Mars rules, Venus isn't really comfortable there because there's all this aggressive and intense energy, and she's trying to hold it in her soft manner. So she doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel as stable. the energy as it could. It feels out of place. And so one of the first lessons is to check in with impulsivity, especially when it comes to love and relationships, and also how you manage, value your money. So impulsivity will have a magnifying glass put on it in these areas, and we're going to be asked to think about if we are acting first and thinking later when it comes to how we approach love, relationships, and money. Are we really actually considering it, or are we kind of like, I need that, and just regretting it later? Aries is a sign that tends to be headstrong and impulsive. Hi, I'm an Aries sun, so I know that energy. And you end up in the deep end a lot of the time, when if you had just paused for a moment and really considered if that's the path, if that's the way you wanted to go, you could have saved yourself some trouble. But there's also a lot of learning that comes from throwing yourself in the deep end. You learn what doesn't work really fast, and we might be experiencing some of that energy around love and money topics in this period. Another big lesson for this period of time is to see if we are really valuing ourselves in relationship to others, or do we end up getting smitten and hooked by external validation? So if somebody shows you some kindness or some attention and you like it, are you letting that lead you? And then you find out maybe this person isn't super aligned to you, and maybe they're not honoring you and respecting you the way that they should. Well, those kind of dynamics are also going to get a spotlight shown on them. And it's really about us learning how to value ourselves, because the way we treat ourselves is the way we will let other people treat us. And so in this window of time, you're going to get a spotlight on, are you valuing yourself? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you respecting yourself? Right? Because those things will be very highlighted. You'll see them clearly in your external relationships, but our goal is to understand that that is initially allowed because it matches a relationship we might have with ourselves. So things like self-abandonment or not valuing ourselves enough or taking ourselves for granted will come up during this time. Another area where we've got lessons to learn, this is going to be an interesting one because I can see it being beneficial, but also being really hard. And that's conflict resolution. So again, we've got the soft, beautiful energy of Venus, who loves to create harmony and balance in relationships. She likes both sides to be heard. She wants everyone's needs to be addressed so that we can create win-wins. And then we've got the sign of Aries, which is like, let me just tell it to you straight. I don't care if this hurts your feelings. Here's the deal. Here's the problem. Here's how you need to fix it. It's a blunt energy. The sign of Aries is not known for being a great communicator. It can be a little tactless, can be a little blunt, but the benefit is it's super honest. It's just telling you like it is. And you need people like that in life. You need people like that in your life who are just going to tell you how it is, because what they're doing is they're getting right to the heart of the problem. It's not always fun or pleasant. It can be very discombobulating for the person receiving that tough love. It can really just kind of make you feel like you're being broken down. But really, they're helping you break down a dynamic that's not serving you. They're helping you spot the pattern and break that apart. So part of it tests us. It's like, do I understand why I'm getting this direct kind of blunt feedback? Or am I taking it personally? So it's a self-esteem assessment, really, because if you have a strong sense of self and your self-esteem and your confidence are, they're pretty strong, then what you're going to see, you might have that initial recoil of like, wow, that was harsh. But then if you stop and consider, you go, you know what? But that's true. I do avoid blah, 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 or I am taking this for granted. That's a good point. And you realize that those in your life who dish out some tough love, they love you deeply. It doesn't always feel it. You don't always feel like that. But someone who's willing to sort of lay it all out for you and show you what's going on, that is coming from a place of love. The problem is it doesn't feel like the win-win. And so it's a time where we can easily get hurt or we can easily misinterpret. And it's really going to be your self-esteem that's the gauge for how you take it. Either you see it as, yep, that's the problem and it needs to get fixed, or you fixate on the fact that someone wasn't coddling you or smoothing it out for you. If you get fixated on that, that shows you, okay, I got some self-esteem and confidence things here, because really it was just feedback, harsh feedback probably, but still good feedback that's going to help you improve. So that's an area that I can see being super contentious and hard for a lot of people to work through. So our job is, again, to really nurture and foster our own feelings of self-worth. Really spend time valuing yourself, checking in with yourself. What do I need? How can I increase a sense of personal security? How can I boost my confidence right now? What would give me a personal boost of confidence, rather than asking for someone to boost it for you? Because we're going to play both sides of this role, by the way. It's not just going to be us receiving harsh feedback. We might be the tough love one doling out the feedback, but there is a good chance that even if you didn't intend it to be tough or direct or brutal, it might be felt like that. And again, it's based on each individual's self-esteem levels. The benefits of this period, though, are worth it. Even though you're like, ooh, like, I don't want to go through that. Again, you'll get to figure out where your self-esteem is sitting and if you are truly nurturing yourself. So this is a big period for self-love and empowerment. The more that we introduce that from ourself, so important. It's got to be coming from within, right? We've got to be nurturing from within. If we're trying to get it from outside sources, it's going to feel like it's being depleted or deprived to some degree, because everyone's being called into their own house. Not a lot of people are going to be milling around outside going, you need some love. It's not to say that people won't be nurturing each other. It's just that the focus and the pull is always going to be like inside. I need to take care of this. So this is a time where you can build up confidence and self-esteem, especially if you can be really objective about any criticism or feedback that you're getting, rather than taking it as a personal attack. Try to see, is there a nugget of truth here that I can work with? Because it's actually going to give you the confidence and self-esteem that you need. We're also going to feel a blaze of passion. So passion in our love lives, passion about what we value, that increases as well. Because again, the more that we are addressing our own needs, the more they activate. So the more that we're recognizing, like, I need a peaceful environment, we're going to work harder to create that. I need more creativity in my life. I need relationships that feel equal in respect or reciprocation. I need that. We're going to get clarity on these things. And so we feel more passionate about assuring that our values are met, which is so important. And the basis of healthy self-esteem and confidence is meeting our own values. That's a benefit of this time, and that's a big win for us. Another thing that comes, and again, this can come from any kind of feedback or, like I said, direct comments, or just kind of the universe reflecting back to you in a more direct way. You're going to get clarity on what it is you desire. And again, that feeds the passion, which helps build the self-esteem. So you see that chain of events as you get really clear on what it is you desire, especially when it comes to relationships, especially when it comes to what you value or creating financial stability. A lot of clarity comes in, which again ignites the passion to assure that those things are being met, which builds the confidence when you feel like you're meeting them. So there is quite a beautiful win for us in this time. However, if we get caught up in the conflicts, the goal that I'm being asked by the team is to come back to checking in with the self-esteem. Aries is all about your self-esteem. It's about your self-image. It's about the body. It's about how you perceive yourself. And if you're looking to outside things to reflect that back to you, it will to a degree, but you'll never know it's you that you're reflecting back. Like, for example, who's been guilty of somebody paying them a compliment? Maybe it's someone close to you, like a spouse or someone you're in a relationship with or someone you're just really close to, and they pay you a compliment and you immediately dismiss it because you think they have to say that because they love me. Are you guilty of that one? I've been guilty of that one. I've worked hard on trying to dismantle that one. But that is the problem when you are looking to get your validation needs met by the outside world. You'll never really know if you have it if you're trying to get it outside of yourself. And so the message from the team this week is that's got to come from within. When you validate and truly are nurturing yourself, your needs and your values, you'll know you have it because you know you can feel the effort and the decision and the choice that I do have this because you're giving it to yourself. And that's core for self-esteem. And it's something that, you know, in our world, we've had a lot of stuff wreck our self-esteem collectively. Everybody's had their self-esteem wrecked to some degree. Not everybody suffers from low self-esteem though, because the people who don't, the people who get out of that trap, learn the skills of valuing themselves and honoring themselves and making sure that their needs are met. And when you do that, you have this beautiful well of energy that you've built for yourself that allows you to share it with other people. So our goal at this time is to just check in when we feel those hits of energy, when we get that direct or blunt comment, or even if the energy feels a little confrontational, like the finger is pointing at you. If our self-esteem isn't in a strong space, we can take that as painful and hurtful. When our self-esteem is in a stable place, we can look at that and go, okay, is there any like valuable feedback here, something that I can work off of? And if there is, then we take that little nugget of information, we process it, and we learn how to adjust in our own system. And then we actually feel grateful for that input, even if it was delivered in a less than ideal fashion. And anything that was extra, we just toss it. We're like, that was the moment. That wasn't about me. And when we get that, we feel better in our communication. We feel pretty rock solid. So this is a really big opportunity for us to embrace self-love, to grow our self-esteem and confidence, to get really clear on what it is we desire, and to really empower ourselves to have that in our life. And with that, let's look at this week's karma cards. All right, if you're new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how these work. I have 3 decks here: planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what is the message for this week? And I've got 2 sets of answers, a set in red, which are action related, and a set in blue, which are outcome related. And the way that you play is you tune in with that beautiful intuition of yours and feel, what is the guidance you need this week? Are you looking for the actions to take, or do you want to see how things resolve? And of course, you can always choose both. And while you are choosing, let me tell you the timing for this reading. This reading is for March 4th through the 11th. And the flavor of this reading, we got the South Node. So South Node is all about what we need to let go. It's its actions aren't active. It's more surrender. So stuff to let go of. Makes sense when we think about the Venus retrograde in the sign of Taurus, which actually is ruled by Venus. And this one is where the values are. What do you value both on a personal level? Like, what are the values that you aspire to? Like, family is very important. Love is very important. Work, whatever those values in your life are, but also literal values like money and possessions are ruled by this card, are ruled by this sign. And we've got the 4th house activated, and the 4th house represents the home, your inner family, and the past. And what I mean by inner family is like the direct family around you. So whether it's your natal family that you're living with or the family that you created, it's your everyday people around you is represented by the fourth house, as well as your home, your past, and including the feminine energy of the mother as well. All right. So for those who are choosing action, your spiritual action at this time is to remember your beliefs as you did in the past. This one's interesting because it wants you to dig deep. When I'm asking my team, what do you mean by this? They're like, go back, go way back. And they're taking us to early childhood, so earliest memories. And this is connected to where Aries is. That's where Aries represents, is like birth to, I don't know, like maybe birth through toddler years. So very early childhood. But what they're saying there is that there were some beliefs that you held that you didn't question. It was sort of an innate feeling you had. Even you wouldn't have been able to put words to it, but there was a foundation there, and you believed in that. Whatever it was, you didn't question it. It was there. You accepted it. You fully held that. You probably, even if you experienced turbulence in those early times, and some of us did, still had an unshakable feeling about who you were before you started to try and figure it out. Before anybody put a lot of input in there, there was a strong belief about who you were. And again, a voiceless belief, maybe something you didn't even like clock or question. But if you can go back in your own energy and just feel about who did I believe I was before this point, early on, before I started questioning it, before I started doubting it, who did I feel like I was? And it might be something might get something like love, secure, safe, could be all sorts of descriptors. It's not really my place to tell you what you get. It's for you to find. But go back to there. Go back to that point. That's a foundational point for you, for all of us. And that is where we can sort of trace what's going on with our own self-esteem, because our self-image started there. And we either built upon that or we tried to eradicate what we had and start again. And I think we go through those phases in life where we're like, I need to radically shift what this is. But there's something, the way that they're showing me an ideal progression would look like is it builds on top of, it doesn't destroy the foundation, because the foundation is a super important piece. And so rather than trying to dismantle or take apart something, it's like it gets built on top of. And that's a more stable form for us to build or grow self-esteem from. We do not have to destroy what came before. We simply have to acknowledge that I'm building off of. All right, mental action at this time. Reconsider the costs of your home base or family. This one's interesting because they keep talking about the building of the foundation. So those around you, those that you are close to, either by choice or by design, they either added to the structural integrity or they nicked it. You know what I mean? So we start with this foundation in ourselves. Again, something that's unvoiced, but just deeply understood foundationally. And then either those around us that were close to us at formative periods of time either added to that, or they also could sort of chew away at that. And those were the patterns that we learned. Either we learned that we're supposed to add to this, or that we're supposed to erode it somehow. Either we had very supportive messages, or we could have had a combination of both. And I think that's probably what happened for most people, is that we would have certain people in our lives who were builders and certain who were sort of destructive. And even some cases, the same person could build and destroy. This is something that we need to understand. Like, this is kind of part of like how the self-esteem was either built or chipped away at. Why either we are excelling in certain areas of self-love or self-expression or self-appreciation and empowerment, or why we struggle there. So it's asking us to contemplate on these points. It's not so much to pick out the people which is, I think, where we can go, like in a therapeutic sense, is we'll go pick out the people and we'll talk about the people and what the people did and the effect it had on us. This is more about, let's put the people aside for a moment and let's just look at the pattern that we were taught. Were we taught to build ourselves? Or were we taught to destroy? Or were we taught a combo of build up, take down? I know I have some friends and clients who are in Australia, and they tell me about the tall poppy syndrome, which is more than just in a family structure. It seems to be in Australia more of a societal thing. And if you're listening and you're in Australia, and you can comment for us and let us know what that means to you, the tall poppy syndrome. But it seems that there's a sort of an accepted ideology in Australia called tall poppy syndrome, and it's where people will cut you down if you get too tall, right? And what I mean by that is energetically, you're too successful, you're too good at this, if you stand out above the rest, the cultural norm is to sort of cut that person down, not to raise other people up, right? Rather than raising themselves up to the level, the ideology is to cut them down. So what we're looking for here is not the people to blame. We're not doing a therapeutic approach on who did what in my life and why they're so good or so bad. It's more, what's the pattern? What was the pattern I was taught or shown? And if it helps, like, you might have to pinpoint people, but it's really not to focus on that. It's like, okay, but the pattern I was shown was you will get built up, but if you get too far, you get cut down, or you put effort out and you're always undercut, because the belief was if I undercut you, you work that much harder to be better, right? So there's a pattern of try hard and never succeed, never get the validation, right? That might be a pattern to look at. Or there was a pattern where things were falsely built up for you, where you were really like your ego was really boosted and you were like, man, I'm really good at this and I don't have to put in any effort. And then you felt like the rug gets pulled out from under you because you find out that you do need the effort. You have to you need some goods to back it up with. And so it was like you were talked up, but not given the actual tools or the information to really help sustain you at that level. So you might have thought you were more than you actually were. I'm just trying to think of different patterns that we could associate with. And you might have one that I didn't mention that you experience and see, and you're like, oh my gosh, this keeps happening. I keep doing that. And if you've got one I haven't talked about, share it in the comments, because I would like to learn, like, what are the other ways that we can either be built up or taken down or misdirected in our energy. And we end up feeling ultimately like the support is either steadily there, which is fantastic. It's spotty, like it's there and then sometimes it's not. It's never there. It's undermining, it's sabotaging. There's so many ways. And what happens is we end up adopting that pattern and carrying it forward. So the goal in looking, again, isn't so much to be like, that was crappy and that person did a crappy thing. No, it's what was the pattern I was shown, and am I continuing that pattern now? All right, physical action at this time. Now is not the time to use the most direct way and do what makes you feel secure. Okay. According to what they're saying is this is connected to the last statement about looking for these patterns. Again, it's not a therapeutic exercise in the way of like, oh, I figured out where this pattern came from. It was this person or this, behavior I see happening, and then going out and trying to like confront that energy. There's nothing there for that to grab onto, and it doesn't actually solve the problem for you. So again, even if we could identify and pinpoint the exact actions and the person and you're going to probably have a desire to directly confront that, that's not going to solve the problem, because the problem is about the pattern continuing, not where the pattern started. And so there's a little bit of a maybe slight frustration at this time around that, because we want the pattern to resolve. And so again, if we're getting emotional and caught up in that and letting the self-esteem do its thing, especially if it's on the lower side, if it's lower self-esteem and we're getting caught up in the why did this happen to me storyline, then we're off track. We're just not going to get the answer we're looking for at this time. What we're looking for is this pattern continuing in myself? Have I learned it and then taken it on as if that is how you do things, right? So if you're a person who learned that don't try too hard because people will cut you down, then do you always do that? Do you always pull back or lean out of situations or reserve some of your energy because you just don't want to be cut down? Are you afraid to stand out and shine because of that? Or if you were a person who was puffed up all the time but never taught the goods to back it up with, do you still do that? Do you still talk yourself up or talk a good game but don't follow through? If you were sabotaged constantly while trying to create things, do you sabotage yourself now because that's where you're comfortable? That's where you know how things happen. And it feels scary to not sabotage. It feels scary to go all the way through with something because you really don't know how things will turn out because you never experienced that before. The goal is to look at the pattern and find out if it's still active. All right, for those who are looking at outcomes with the South Node in Taurus in the 4th house, your spiritual outcome at this time, there will not be resources to maintain what makes you feel secure. Don't love reading that one, but I get it. When we're looking at our patterns of behavior, we will probably feel the most insecure about ourselves. This is ironic because you're actually doing something about it. You're actually moving towards better self-esteem. You're actually working towards better patterns of behavior, but the looking is painful. It's painful, and I'm sorry, and I feel it too. It's like I get that. When we have to look at what am I doing that undermines my own self-esteem, my own happiness and success, we don't feel so hot about it. And yet it is the very thing that will help you. And the irony there is just, it's intense, it's painful. It's like a cringy kind of energy because looking is hard, which is why most people avoid it. Looking at it is hard. It's easier to look at it and be like, oh, somebody did that to me. Life is hard because of that. So I don't have to change my behavior because it wasn't my fault. Please be clear that this is not even about fault. This is about helping ourselves. It's about growing something. But how can we grow something if we have a pattern that's destructive? And so during this time, as you approach this and consider doing the deeper inner work of simply looking at the patterns and trying to identify if they're still playing out, it's not going to feel like a super secure time. But the important thing to remember is feelings aren't always telling you the truth. What the feeling is telling you about is this is hard to look at. But the truth is you're looking at it, and that is the first step to creating the change. Mental outcome at this time, anxiety about the practicality of support. Again, this is where it gets weird because inside this Venus retrograde energy, we've got the conflict resolution energy, right? Which is, let's say someone really close to you that you love dearly is the one to trigger this deeper look. And they're like, you really got to stop BSing yourself and constantly sabotaging the effort you put in. And you feel like zing, like arrow to the heart. Ouch. How could you be so blunt and rude and blame it on me? It's so easy for us to go into the insecurity spiral here when actually that statement, if it had a little more tact in its delivery, would show you how clear that perception is. It's like you're sabotaging your own success. You're getting in your own way, right? That statement, hard to hear, great information because it'll tell you how to get out of it, right? It'll give you the solution. So this is where it gets hard because here we are in this kind of sensitive spot where we don't feel as, again, there's a theme of insecurity in 2025 so far. We had it with the Mars retrograde in Cancer, which hinted on that. Now we've got this, it's a fine tuning. It's actually trying to help us gain it. But if it's not already strong, or if it's something you've needed to work on, or if there's areas, you might feel more secure in some areas, like maybe you're really good at business. You feel really secure there, but you suck at relationships. Or you're really good at relationships, but you suck at business. Or, like pick a combination, right? We all have places where we feel pretty secure in ourselves and our abilities, and other areas where we're feeling a little bit shaky, or like we just don't have a handle on it. Where it's going to hurt is where you feel like you don't have a handle on it. And it's easy for us to go off onto a tangent about how we don't have support there. If someone is showing you, maybe, like I said, through a blunt action, that this is what the problem is, that's actually a sign that you do have support, because people who care will let you know, where people who don't will let you struggle. It's like, you're drowning, and a person who cares, they're going to try and reach you, where they're going to be like, swim, damn it, start swim. You're not swimming, help yourself. Or another person just might be like, sucks to be you, and keeps walking. So the ones who are pointing it out, harsh as it might be, and especially if it's in that sensitive area, they actually care. It's just, we're not going to feel it. And physical outcome at this time: trouble resulting from the productivity of your home base and family. And what I get, that's just another piggyback statement on, look, those who are close to us, whether it's the family we're born into or the family we create, there's a good chance you have a lot of love and support in that space. And if they're really loving on you right now, and again, the love is there. This is not a Venus retrograde does not mean love is not there. It is very much there. It is a blunter, more confronting type of love. Like I said, it's a tough love period. Tough love seems to be an energy, I think, that will be seen. Does it mean it's always going to be like that right now? No. But it's going to feel like, wow, can you just tone it down? Can you be a little softer? We might actually end up saying that to each other at some point. Maybe you're saying it to me right now as you're listening to this message, like, can you soften this, please? Which, okay, that's kind of what it's like. It's like we can go along, but man, when the spotlight is shown on what needs to grow or stabilize, it kind of feels like a gut punch. So again, we feel shaky, and I want to be clear, these cards are for a 7-day period. I think it will pass. I think you will stabilize. I think if you're hearing this message, you will be aware and have the knowledge and know it's like, ooh, I'm looking at the pattern of behavior. Anything that's brought to me right now, whether it's brought to me gently or kind of with a punch of direct energy, it's for my benefit. And it's growing me, and it's actually giving me more confidence and an opportunity to build something stronger in its place. So we're going to work on just loving ourselves, making sure we're nurturing ourselves during a sort of pungent time and energy, and know that this too passes, and that I believe it's actually building you up, not intending to tear you down. But no matter what happens, I'm going to be here with you. I will be back next week with the karma cards. And if you could like, share, and subscribe to this channel, help me build it up so we can get this message out to more people, I would greatly appreciate that. And until next time, I'm sending you so much love. Mwah.